All right, we're about to look at an ancient story from the Old Testament that has more to do with the trajectory of the history of the Old Testament and of human history than just about any other story in the Bible. It is fraught with all types of difficulties and conflicting interpretation, troubling nuances, but most importantly, a picture of the Messiah to come. This is probably going to be at least a 3-part series in short, so you want to check out that link down below, okay? All right, boomers, get your reading glasses on because we're about to get into it. And if you're younger, just thank God you ain't got to wear reading glasses. And by the way, I ain't no boomer. That's just what Gen Z and this Generation Alpha calls anybody older than them. I'm right in that crevice, that crack in between Gen Z and millennial. I don't know what you call that, but it ain't got nothing to do with what we're going to look at here today. All right, before we begin this story, we need to remember the historical context of which this story is told. And I would say that many times, in fact, most times, it's not even looked at. And that's why we get some flawed interpretations and some troubling nuances. But we're going to look at the historical context, and that is that these 8 souls who were in that boat with all their animals and all that dung, yes, it was probably a very smelly, mildewy boat, but God designed it and it preserved humanity and all of the animals. We're gonna look at what they went through before we look at this story. While they were on a ship that was in a continual storm for 10 days and a year, they were probably often seasick. They were probably often thinking about the way things used to be and how things would never be the same again. They were probably thinking about their auntie's cooking and how they never are going to see auntie again because she died in the flood. They're probably thinking about their favorite street that they grew up on, or the favorite hill that they like to climb, or their best friends. Or maybe they're thinking about some of the people who were almost convinced to get in the boat but did not. And then, when they come out of the ark, they come rushing out of the ark. I can imagine you got to get out of the way from the mastodons and the elephants because they would crush you. As they come out, they see a world that is entirely different. The canopy of water overhead is no longer there. There are jagged mountains that were not there before. The beautiful Edenic type hillsides are no longer there. All of their favorite places are gone. Everybody that they knew, every place that they visited has now disappeared, and they have the worst case of PTSD that human beings have ever had in the existence of humanity.